Today we have a special announcement about justice and about this Commonwealth and our prosecutors' relentless pursuit for justice. As you know, roughly 3 years ago, this Commonwealth recognized a real problem in that we had a rape kit backlog of over 3,100 untested kits statewide. Each one of those kits represented a victim, a survivor, someone that may have not secured justice. And so starting at that time, and as I came into office roughly 2.5 years ago, we have worked on every single level to address this backlog. First, working with the Kentucky State Police, we have arranged for the testing of every single one of these kits, all of which are now either at the outside lab being tested or being returned here in Kentucky. Every single one is being tested. Second, we provided over $4.5 million from the AG's office, money that we'd won in a settlement, to our state crime lab. Now, that was every penny they said they needed to hire more people, train them, and buy more equipment so they could assure there would never be a backlog again. But there were still those untested kits and the people that they represented. So one of the best days I've had as Attorney General is along with the State Police, when we got to announce a grant from the U.S. Department of Justice that allowed us to start a cold case unit in our office. That cold case unit has a dedicated prosecutor, investigator, and victims advocate whose job is to supplement the great work of our Commonwealth attorneys throughout this state. It's an ability for us to provide them reinforcements and help when needed, so that we can assure that resources are never an excuse for us to not seek justice. And as you all have seen, the results from this effort and from everyone's efforts statewide have started to come in. I think it was a little over a month ago when Jefferson County Commonwealth Attorney Tom Wine, who's going to speak in a minute, announced an indictment from a sexual assault that occurred in 1983. That victim in her 80s proves that justice can come for everyone. And today, we have a second announcement from Western Kentucky, from McCracken County, about a new indictment. This indictment is from a sexual assault of a minor that occurred in 2005. We're here to announce that John Todd Langston, who is currently 45, was indicted on August 24th by a Grand County jury after DNA evidence from the minor's 2005 safe kit matched a profile associated with Langston. He has been indicted for that 2005 crime for first-degree rape, first-degree sodomy, first-degree unlawful imprisonment, and intimidating a participant in the legal process. The alleged sexual assault occurred in McCracken County in 2005 and is being investigated by the McCracken County Sheriff's Office, specifically by Detective Sarah Martin. We have had significant and important help from the Paducah Police Department, whose Chief Brandon Barnhill, Captain Smith, Detective Shear have helped us get to this point. We also have to thank the KSP Crime Lab, which is testing the safe kits, including its director, Laura Sudkamp, and Whitney Collins, who oversaw the testing. Langston was arrested in his home in Louisville on August the 28th. He was arraigned in McCracken Circuit Court this morning. This was a joint effort by our cold case unit and the McCracken County Commonwealth Attorney's Office. We need to thank Dan Boaz and Assistant Commonwealth Attorney Leanne Dykes. Together, we were able to move fairly quickly on this case and to take the steps we need to secure justice. Our prosecutor from our office, who is just leaving Paducah, her name is Dana Todd, and she has worked tirelessly on this case. Others we need to thank include Matt Carter, the McCracken County Sheriff, and oh so many more folks that have helped and will help in the future. While we cannot comment on this specific case outside of the details in the indictment and any that were made public during the arraignment, let me say that this is just the start. That those whose kits are involved in the backlog should have hope. that in this Commonwealth we never give up on justice. And just because this case was 13 years ago does not mean that this victim didn't deserve the justice that we are starting to see today. I pledge that our cold case unit will continue to work with anyone and everyone around the state that wants to work with us. And we will work to follow up on every single hit in the CODIS database that comes up from this backlog. At the end of the day, this backlog was a national shame, and it's a shame it happened here in Kentucky. But how we respond, righting this wrong and showing that we will always fight to pursue justice is something that our citizens can be very proud of. With that, I want to introduce you to Dan Boaz, who is the Commonwealth Attorney in McCracken County.
Thank you, General. I cannot overstress the importance of the initiative that General Beshear has done, and I can't overstress our appreciation for his office working, partnering with our office to prosecute this case and others that may come down the pike. He's done an excellent job gathering the evidence and making sure that we can use the evidence, and we are greatly appreciative of his office and of them coming down and working with us to prosecute the case. It's very important to the victim, and it's very important to our community.
We next have Jefferson County Commonwealth Attorney Tom Wine, who was the first Commonwealth Attorney to secure an indictment on this backlog. We appreciate his leadership, and we wanted to make sure we got his comments. Tom?
Thank you very much, General.
Thank you.
Thank you, General. Dan, we also are very appreciative of the fact that the Attorney General's office and Andy Beshear took the initiative. I think the message is important to those individuals who have committed crimes. It doesn't matter the time, it doesn't matter the distance, eventually you're going to be caught. In our case out of Jefferson County, our victim is now 88 years old, and the individual who has been charged has previously been convicted. And some people will say, well, they were already serving some time, so what's it matter? It matters to the victim. That's what's important. They now have their day in court. And this is a great opportunity. It's a great initiative. And anything we can do to help you guys, we're prepared to help as well. Thank you.
Thanks. Like I mentioned earlier, we are very limited on the facts of the case as to what we can talk about, but we're happy to take questions on this topic and here. Any other topics we'll want to answer outside.
Obviously, we touched on this a little bit, but how do you really make sure a backlog like this never, ever happens again?
Well, the first thing we did when we reached out to the crime lab is we said, what are your challenges? They were personnel, they were equipment, and they were training. So that $4.5 million that we provided from settlement funds was every dime they said they needed to make that happen. But then we also, through the state legislature, passed state law. And that sets very specific time limits for when these kits have to be adopted. But there was a third step we took, and that was in the same grant the Department of Justice provided to my office to start the cold case unit. They provided additional funding in case there were any other kits out there, which we discovered that there were that weren't in that original count. That's now given us the funding to test every single kit that's out there, meaning my hope is that when we're here next year, maybe when we're here 6 months, the number of untested rape kits in Kentucky will be 0 with no exceptions and no asterisks. But then we continue to pursue it. Every time we find out that there is one that hasn't been tested, we work to make sure it gets tested. And we have partners, whether it's in the media or in our communities on that, and we ask that they help us. Because at the end of the day, our job is to secure justice. And when we find that it is not being pursued, it's our job to step in. Right?
To either one of the prosecutors, how does this help your job? It's talking to victims' families. The delay, I know that's a big thing that we always hear them complain about is how long it's taken to get the testing done. How is it for you? How has it helped your job to be able to tell them that it's not going to take as long? We're fixing this.
Well, I think this gives them renewed hope. Okay. I think that this gives victims of crimes renewed hope in the system that we're not giving up on their case, and that we are working it and will proceed as hard as we can. And with the Attorney General's office's help, I mean, it is a tremendous asset for us. And so I think it really helps give hope to the victims, and that's a wonderful thing for us.
I'd just add that sexual assault is an underreported crime. And we have to be able to assure those that have the courage to come forward and report that we will seek justice for them. And when you look at this backlog, it's folks that not only reported, but were willing to undergo the most invasive forensic exam you could ever ask anyone to take. But where we are now, testing every single one of these old kits and also providing the resources and the law requiring a timely testing of new kits, means that everyone who makes that call, we can assure them that their kit will be tested, that we can look at that victim in the eye and say, yes, we're asking you to go through something traumatic because your body is the crime scene. But we can tell you, based on the law, based on everything we're doing, based on stories like this that we're able to tell, that we're still seeking justice from a crime that occurred in 2005, that your kit will be tested, we will follow up, we will seek justice. All right. Thank you very much.